Hello and welcome to Nbyula Talks. Before we begin, we have a few updates and reminders for you. We would love to have you be part of our Nbyula community. And you can do so by logging on to www.nbyula.com, where you can join communities related to your area of interest, register for upcoming Nbyula Talks, book one-to-one skylifts, and view other upcoming events. You can also take this opportunity to connect with fellow learners or the speaker by sending a connection request. When you connect with the speaker, you will be able to contact them directly as well as receive updates about their upcoming talks. Kindly note that during this session, you will not be able to switch on your camera or unmute your mic. To ask questions during the talk, go to the audience chat, type your question, and select Post Your Question. If your question has not been answered during the talk, you will be notified once it's been answered, or if your question has not been answered during the talk, you can go to www.nbyula.com and spin a quest, and your questions will be answered. Thank you for joining us today. We hope this talk broadens your horizons and takes you to new learning heights.
Hello everyone and welcome to our Nbyula Talk. I'm your host for the day and my name is Masuma, part of the Nbyula editorial team and engagement. All right, folks, let's not wait anymore and start our session. Before we start, let me quickly give you a brief about what is Nbyula. Nbyula is a platform that is for the international students or by the international students, as we can say, whatever. What we do here exactly is we provide all the resources and we eliminate all the fears that might involve to study or work abroad. Okay, and this in return reduces all the cost and the issues we face staying in a foreign land. So to start with, I will quickly share my screen before we meet our guest speaker. So how many times have you given up on your dreams because of one failed attempt? I'm sure a lot of you. But today, I may be able to change that by bringing to you our very kind guest speaker, Debayan, who will share his first-hand experience as a Commonwealth Scholar. Welcome to Nbyula Talk, Debayan. We are so grateful for you to join us and educate our aspirants by sharing your journey. To start with, can you give us a small introduction, Debayan?
So hi, thank you for inviting me here, and it has been a pleasure to be part of this whole talk today. So I am Debayan, and I'm a practicing architect and urban designer as well as a planner from Kolkata. I was born and brought up in Kolkata, and then I did my bachelor's in architecture from Jadavpur University in Kolkata. Then I did my master's in urban design from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. I was there for a couple of years, worked with government and MNCs, and then I did my second master's, which was in urban development planning with UCL, Development Planning Unit. Being a Commonwealth Scholar, it was funded by the government. And then I again joined Jacobs in India. Currently I'm working with A7, which is again a MNC, working on different master plans in the Middle East. And soon I'll be shifting to Frankfurt with a new organization. So that's kind of a short journey, I would say, what I've been doing for the last couple of years.
It might be short, but I think it's quite interesting. And the way you're moving forward with so many different places, it's like a dream come true for most of us. Let me tell you that.
Thank you, Mazuma. I hope so.
Yeah. So thank you so much for the introduction. So today's talk is about Commonwealth Scholarship and a very intriguing program, Urban Development Planning. So I hope all the attendees are ready, and please shoot out any questions you have in the chat box and it will be answered by the end of this segment, right? Okay, to start with the first question, could you also give me a quick introduction to maybe Commonwealth Scholar? What is it all about?
Yeah. Commonwealth Scholarship is, of course, one of the most prestigious and one of the oldest scholarship, I would say, if you are planning to study in the UK. So it's the funded by FCDO, which is Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, and of course it's a UK government is very involved with this whole thing. It's oldest because it started in 1959, and since then, like you can imagine, like more than 52 years, they're kind of giving funding to all the people who are based in these different Commonwealth countries. So in general, 54, 55 kind of countries you have as Commonwealth countries. So anyone, if you are kind of planning to do your masters or PhD in UK, they kind of offer this financial assistantship, and which means like this scholarship actually covers everything. In that way, it's really amazing, and it has uh, six different types of scholarships also. So, mostly focusing on, as I said, like for masters and PhD. But then they have these different country-wise categories. So they have scholarships for highly developed countries. They have categories for like scholarships for lower and middle income countries, and then even for the the fragile states and stuff like that. So it's like it kind of like covers a range of sort of areas, and if as Indian we are kind of planning to apply for the scholarship, we will fall under this middle and low income sort of category. Earlier, we were able to be apply for both masters and PhD scholarships, but unfortunately, for last few years, it has been only the master scholarship what Indian students are eligible with, and it strictly funds only the courses which are of 1 year duration. So there are different courses also, masters courses in UK, which are generally 2 years long, but you won't be able to like get funding for such courses. And yeah, that's I think more or less the brief of Commonwealth Scholarship. So I mean, cracking this one is, I mean, it's highly competitive. And just as a statistic, so in the last 60 years, they have given scholarships to 30,000 total students coming from all these different Commonwealth countries. So per year, they generally give 500 to 800 students, like worldwide. So which means like if you start dividing it into like by 54 countries, then it comes down to something around 10, 20, 25 max. That also sometimes include PhD candidates, as I said. So it's highly competitive, especially if you're coming from India. There is already pressure of so many students are kind of have that dream. So um, but yeah, it's one of the best. So why not? You know?
Yeah. I think, yeah, that was quite informative. But also, Debayan, why did you, as you, why did you choose Commonwealth? And why did you choose the place UK?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it was a different reason. So I like, after my first master's, I started working with the MNC, which was UK based. Although we had our Delhi studio, but we used to work with the UK studio very closely. And I'm actually I work as an urban designer. So if people who are from architecture and urban design, they would specifically know that UK and Europe has a very rich history of how to do urban planning and urban design. So in that way, I mean, because I started my journey with them, I always had an interest of how this particular discipline has been practiced, in that particular region. And then later on, I mean, I started developing my own interest in the field of temporary urbanism, which is something kind of that whole like whatever studies or the base studies, whatever have been done in the Europe. So UCL was one of the, I would say, the key institute who kind of like initiated such studies, such research studies. So I was actually wanting to do my PhD from there. So that was the starting point. I thought of that way, and that's why I was referring a lot of these studies done by UCL over there, and that's why I was pretty sure I wanna do it from UCL and London, and of course I don't come from come from a background where I could afford my PhD in the UK, where study is really really expensive, personally. So, and Commonwealth was the best option because it covers everything, honestly. So that's how the whole interest grew.
Right, right. Also, was this your first time that you applied for scholarship and you immediately got it?
No, not really. So as I said, I started with this interest of doing PhD, and I applied twice for Commonwealth Scholarship, but I couldn't be successful. That time I was also applying for INLAGs. I was shortlisted for INLAGs too, but that was also uh, I mean, I couldn't get it because the total amount for PhD scholarship is much, much higher than the maximum limit what in lakhs provide. So, I mean, I was not fitting into the criteria, so it didn't happen. But then what happened, because I was a failure in that way, for consecutive 2 years. So my supervisor in UCL, she actually suggested that maybe you try for a master's, you come here and check it out, like the interest you have, whether you really want to do PhD or not, and if you're really interested, if you're confident enough, and then if I could get a chance to take it up as a dissertation topic, then maybe it would be easier for me to kind of push it for my PhD, and that was the interest actually. So I applied for third time with the interest of doing MSc, and then I got it. So yeah, I mean that was a kind of journey, like
Yeah,
how this whole
so
Commonwealth happened.
yeah, so instead of PhD, you chose masters,
Right, right, yeah,
right?
maybe
Right.
that
So
helps.
yeah, I mean, like, I don't think you should be. I mean, there is nothing to regret about it. It's like
Right, right. No,
life
no,
is
I
all
am not
about,
really, of course.
yeah, yeah, life is all about learning more and more, and it's never enough.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the next question is, which all universities did you apply for?
As I said, I was very sure that I like UCL is my first choice and last choice. So I never applied for any other university. It was always UCL. I knew where to apply. So yeah, for me it was like one university, one department, one course. That's all.
Wow, wow, wow. That is the confidence anybody should have. Anyway, okay. So, which all programs did you choose and how did you narrow it down?
No, as I said, I was when I was doing PhD, I was actually trying for different universities. But when I applied for masters, because by that time, as I said, I spent 2 years to kind of develop my work, and I was pretty sure that even if I want to do masters as well as PhD, it should be UCL only. So when I applied for third time, I didn't have any other choice. I applied for UCL. The school was Bartlett Development Planning Unit, and the course was MSc in Urban Development Planning, because like as a professional, as I said, so I'm an urban designer. So urban design is basically, it's a bridging discipline between architecture and planning. So I had my bachelor's in architecture. I did my master's in urban design. So I wanted to do the other stuff, which is the higher skill, and that was planning. So in that way, I chose that, and of course, it was very much related to it is very much related to my research interest. So that's all.
Right, right.
That's why I chose that course.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the scope of learning urban planning and design in India? Like, how is it different from UK?
I mean, the major difference would be because this planning and urban design or architecture, whatever you say, these fields are very very well known in the Western region, especially in the developed countries like UK and US. So you have a lot of scope as well as a lot of recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if when it comes to India, I mean, architecture is still fine because you have a lot of things happening here and there, but um, also urban planning, I would say, because these two fields are still well established even in Indian context. But urban design, because I work as an urban designer, it has been it anyways, as like if you see also globally, this field is very new compared to architecture and planning. So of course, when you talk about a developing nation, the field is still uh, I won't say struggling, but it's progressing. But it's compared to UK, the scope is very limited. Like if you are based in like major cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, Bangalore. These are some of the cities where you could see, people are really careful and aware of this particular field, urban design, but not necessarily for the second tier cities, or you can forget about the other tiers. So in that way, when once you're a pass out, once you are an urban design pass out, it's challenging. Like a lot of people, I have seen a lot of my friends, they have gone into academia because not that always they wanted to do academia on only, they wanted to pursue some sort of job, but there were not enough opportunities. But in the recent particular timeline, as our current government is pushing for, at least in terms of development, there are a lot of new projects there, sort of launching. Whether it's happening or not, that's a completely different discussion. I won't go there, but at least it is kind of increasing our scope, and things are changing. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, would you like to tell me what is the scope like in Dubai, urban planning and design?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I have been here, like I have been working in Dubai for last 1.5 years, and honestly, we all know that Dubai and the Middle East is kind of now the epicenter of every kind of development, because of like you get like the scale of projects we see here. It's very I would say, I mean, you can do anything, whatever you want. So, and because there's a lot of money flow, there is like the government is very much supportive. So in that way, as architect, urban designer, planner, you have huge scope because the market is booming, and because of the pandemic, of course, in in between there was certain kind of like they had to stop certain things, but now post pandemic things are changing. If you see, a lot of job opportunities are coming, and one of the and of course India, like being an Indian, like it's easier to migrate over here because there are a lot of people from our country, they are working here. So it's very comfortable for us, and this region knows about our capabilities. So that's a very good part. So most of the bigger MNCs and all, they are willing to hire Indian students also. Sometimes with your Indian degree too. So not necessarily always it's required, like to be here. It's not necessary that a foreign degree would be mandatory. But yeah, if you have something from UK or US, or any European, good institutes, of course you get an additional value to it. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think Dubai is a very exotic place. But however, Dubai, and how do you cope up with the heat? I mean, like, it goes crazy out there.
You don't cope up. You are always inside. That's how you operate.
Yeah, like
It's always air conditioned environment.
I have traveled to Dubai and it is crazy. I always come back to India after like a terrible migraine. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, of course. I mean, that challenge is there, but you can't. I mean, people are here still. I mean, irrespective of that, those challenges, people are here because you have enough scope. So which your country might not be able to offer you. So
Yeah, right. Okay, moving on to the next question. As you said, you had issues with your funding, right? So, did you have any alternative funding options, or the scholarship was the only option you had?
no, I think, I mean, for me it wasn't possible. I was very sure that, because as I said, I had my first master, so it was not literally necessary for me to kind of do it. But I wanted to, of course, explore more. And as I said, I was interested in. I'm still interested in different, like explore in different directions. So it was from like mostly for myself. I wanted to do it, and I don't come from a background, or I, of course, when I was working in India, I was not being paid that way, so that I can save such a huge amount of money and come here. So Commonwealth was the best option because if you see, there are a few reasons. So one is like I knew from very beginning that it has to be a scholarship which covers everything. Everything means it starts from your visa cost, travel cost, your clothing cost, your monthly allowance, your tuition fee, your whatever, like, dissertation cost, and if you want to travel in between, that's also covered. So, all the stuff, like what you can imagine and what you cannot imagine also, it needs to be
Right.
covered. It needs to be part of that package. And there are very few scholarships with that. So, of course, shipping was also there. But then I always preferred Commonwealth over shipping because first of all, as I said, I am a person who is more interested also in academia and research career, and not just on focusing on profession practice, I would say. So Commonwealth has that kind of, my profile is more aligned with what Commonwealth is seeking for, because they're looking for people who are can become the key leaders in the sustainable development in the coming future. So, and my field is very much close to development. So, in that way, like they are pretty much aligned with the current sustainable development goals, which has been set up by UN Habitat. So, which is all very close to my heart. So that was one of the reasons. The second was, of course, like there will be very few scholarships. Like for example, for chevening. So they would like you to be back in your home country for a certain amount of years. Whereas in Commonwealth, at least I had that option because I was still, like, when I was doing the masters, as I mentioned, I still had that thought that maybe I'll continue as a PhD scholar. So Commonwealth gives you that opportunity. So if once you are done with your masters, if of course you need to have a special permission from the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in the UK, but you have that option. So you can continue doing your study once your master's is done. It's not necessarily you need to come back to UK. But yeah, of course, you are planning to do a job over there, then you are not allowed. Then you have to come back to your home country. So that was the case. So for me, it was more flexible. And third is, of course, like in Chevening also, or even there are other Commonwealth schemes also. Like if the Commonwealth has this split scholarship also, which has these specific limitations to like what kind of courses you can opt for. Like so, for Commonwealth Master Scholarship, General Master Scholarship, it's not the case. You can, like, it's just your university needs to be registered under this particular scheme. Like for example, if I'm applying, like I was interested in UCL, right? So UCL is a registered member under that. So I can apply, I can choose any course within UCL. So that's one of the biggest advantage, I would say, which, like, that kind of flexibility, not most of the scholarship schemes would be able to offer. So yeah, that's why Commonwealth was always my sort of first choice. And yeah, I mean, I had to wait for a bit, but yeah, I got.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, you did it. You did it. I think most of all, you achieved it. You were the key person. Like, okay, even if I don't get it, I will not give up hope. And I think that's the
Yeah.
spirit everyone should have, right? Okay. Could you also give me a brief about the eligibility criteria for Commonwealth?
Yeah. So for Commonwealth, again, like you there is no limitation to your field. As I said, it's focusing on currently the idea of development. So from whatever background, if you are a mathematician or a sociologist or an architect or economist, like if you could align your story with that idea of sustainable development, it's perfectly fine. You are eligible to apply. You have to be residing in India when you are applying. That's a mandatory requirement. So if you have been outside India, I mean, although they change these rules every year, but when I was applying, the rule was that you have been outside India, then that last date when you came back from that foreign country, from that date and the date of when you are applying, that has to be minimum 2 years, as far I remember. So in a way, they're very much sure that you have to be in that particular home country. Also, currently, I think they're also like, I mean, earlier it was mostly based on merit, and of course there was a that criteria was there that you are from a developing nation, so you would be needing that support. But now I think they are making it sure that you need to give some kind of evidence, also I think also to show that you cannot sponsor your study in the UK. So there is a requirement, I think, from especially from the government of India, because there are two agencies involved in this whole selection process. So for that, you might be needing to support that kind of evidence. So that's another criteria. And then of course you need to have at least a bachelor's. And then yeah, I mean, and oh yeah, there is an age limit also. I think it was 40 when I applied. You can't go beyond that. I don't know whether they have extended it or not, but if not, then yeah, that you have to be within that age.
I think, yeah, 40 is still sounds good. I think it's fine. That
Yeah,
criteria
yeah,
is
of
good.
course,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. Okay. So, what was the application process like, and like what all the documents or any certifications required?
Right. So, as I was mentioning again earlier, the application process actually they change it. Just to maintain, like over the years they have changed, and they do it uh, very often just to make sure that the process is transparent. So when I started, applying for PhD, as I said, the particular selection uh, process, the steps it has completely changed when I was applying for the third time. So we need to be updated, and whatever information I'll be sharing now, it might be already backdated by the time the aspiring students will get their next brief. But still, like I am sure it will give some idea. So the thing is, as I said, like Commonwealth has these different types of scholarship. So uh, and currently the PhD thing is not available, so I'm only focusing on masters. There are two types of master scholarship you can apply. One is Commonwealth General Master Scholarship. The other one is Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. So for General Master Scholarship, there are two bodies involved in the whole selection process. So one is Government of India, MHRD, who does the initial screening, and then the final selection happens in UK, where Commonwealth Scholarship Commission is actually taking care of that particular selection process. So what happens that if I give you a very tentative idea, like every year at least 4,000 to 5,000 people generally apply from India for this base level, the initial level Commonwealth application, which then the government India does its own sort of selection process. So what happens there? Like the major criteria for MHRD is one would be from which college you have done your bachelor's. So the ranking of that college and what result you had. So the marks is important, of course, here. And then the QS ranking of which college you are applying in the UK. So which means if you are applying for, of course, Cambridge, Oxford, UCL, Edinburgh, you are more, I would say you will be more favorable in that way of being nominated for the next stage. So if you're applying for Commonwealth, you have to always aim for the best university. That's the kind of moral of the story. The third, as I said, like nowadays they are kind of, maybe I think they're putting that criteria of like whether you need that financial support or not. So they need some kind of family income related documents and stuff nowadays. So that might be the new addition they have done it. But again, we like the students need to follow up the notice from MHRD once they kind of declare that or kind of start inviting applications every year. So they will mention it properly. So The MHRD has a completely different portal. So all these things, what I'm saying, these particular information you have to submit through a separate portal, which is only dealt by MHRD. Whereas for the final selection, the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in the UK, so they have a completely different link and different process. So, like if you are applying for Commonwealth General Master Scholarship, you have to apply through these two different websites. One is Commonwealth Scholarship Commission UK's website, and one is the MHRD website. So for CSC website, their criteria, the selection criteria is very, different. As I said, they are looking for these leaders for sustainable development. So they have these different essay. They will ask different questions, short essays or medium essays, and again they change it every year. It's a little different from evening, but the idea is similar. So they will ask for, like, suppose for example, what's your study plan, or if you what the kind of knowledge you would be gaining in the UK, what will you do when you come back to India? But the tricky part is, so they have these six themes. So I'll read out all the six themes. So one is science and technology for development. One is strengthening health systems and capacity. One is promoting global prosperity. One is strengthening global peace, security, and governance. One is strengthening resilience and response to crisis. And the last one is access, inclusion, and opportunity. So these are six themes. And when you are applying, you have to choose one particular theme. And whenever you are writing these essays, you have to somehow align it with that particular theme. And there you have to also tie up, the ideas related to the sustainable development goals. Just for an example, so when I applied as an architect, my preferred theme was access, inclusion, and opportunity. And so whenever I was writing, and I had to choose three different sustainable development goals. What has been set by UN Habitat from the 16 goals. So my first, like suppose my key goal was goal number 11, which was livable communities. So when I'm writing, so my essays should be aligned to that theme and this particular goal what I'm choosing. So that's a bit tricky part, and all the essays have to be aligned with those goals and things. So that's kind of decide the fate of whether you are getting the scholarship or not. Because what happens, like MHRD, when they do the selection from 5,000, they create a list of around 50 to 60 students. And from there, when the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in the UK is doing the screening, the final screening, it will come down to around maximum 20 to 25, what I mentioned earlier. So that time, these essays become really, really, important, and they do the screening based on that, and not with the other, academic merit and stuff, because they have, like, the government has already, forwarded those profiles only who are best. So at that level, all of them are equal. So that's the kind of process for Commonwealth General Master Scholarship. Whereas for Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, the process is little simpler, because you just need to apply to Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in the UK through their website. And once it is done, the final screening would be done by the preliminary screening would be done by Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in the UK. And then the university you have chosen, they will forward your application to the university, and the university will choose who are those people who are getting that particular scholarship. Because the funding wise, both these two scholarships are also different, and that's why the screening is different. So for Commonwealth General Master Scholarship, the majority, the 95% of the funding will come from Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in the UK. So that's why they are the main decision maker. Whereas for Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, it's actually the university is paying the substantial amount of the funding for the students, and then Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in the UK will pay a very little amount. That's why in both cases, the key decision maker, that changes in the final. So yeah, that's what it is. It might, yeah, I mean, it might be too informative, but yeah, that's the thing. It's a little complicated.
Yeah, I think it is informative, but also people should be aware, like, the difference between the two. That is
Yeah.
really important before they apply for it.
Right.
Yeah. Also, I think you pointed out that this rules keeps changing. the application process and all of that. And for that, I think all the attendees should know that at Nebula, we do have experts who can guide you better with all of this. So please, by the end of the session, go check out our links and do connect with us. All right. Debayan, was IELTS mandatory when you applied for the scholarship or maybe applied for the university?
I mean, the thing is, Commonwealth kind of allow you to apply without IELTS. Uh, so it's a visa requirement, I would say. So um, I would actually advise all the students that you don't go for IELTS exam in the beginning, because without IELTS exam you can apply to these UK universities. You can get a conditional offer, and with that conditional offer, you can apply for Commonwealth Scholarship for sure. So when once you get the confirmation from the scholarship, then only they will ask you for the IELTS score, and honestly, I think you should do appear for that test during that time, because first of all, it's expensive, and then what happens that it's only valid for 2 years. So somehow, as I said, for me, just take my example. So I had to take this IELTS test twice, because initially when I applied for PhD, I thought, oh, I should do IELTS first, and then within 2 years I didn't get the scholarship, and then the validity was gone, and then I had to again appear for another test, and it's unnecessary wastage of money, and there's no meaning to it. Yeah, I mean, just wait for that moment when you get a confirmation, then you do it, and it's an easy test, honestly. I mean, so if you have come till this stage, and if you are eligible to get a scholarship like Commonwealth, then of course you will be able to crack IELTS very easily. So that won't be an
Yeah, I think not just on the perspective of getting into the university or scholarship, IELTS is that also helps your spoken English and everything. And
yeah,
I
that's
think,
true.
yeah, like being in UK or US in such a country, it is very important the way you speak, the way you present yourself. I
Yeah.
think it, yeah, I think,
Yeah, that's of course that's very helpful. I mean, yeah, in that way
yeah,
it's very helpful. I'm just talking about, because honestly, like if you think about like 15,000, 16,000 money, like especially a fresh bachelor's, who is trying to get there, unnecessary. I mean, I feel it's in that way you don't need to pay again and again for just to prove that you can speak English, and it's yeah, it's my personal.
yeah. I think you did it, I think, thrice. But yeah,
Yeah,
people, I think they should just be mindful when exactly to apply for it and like
exactly,
the validity of the
exactly.
certificate. Yeah. So also again at Nebula, we do have IELTS trainer who can
Yeah, yeah,
guide
sure.
the aspirants better. So yeah, by the end of the maybe session, I will tell more about it. Right. Okay. So Debayan, you have been through so much, like like you applied for so many times, and like the third time was the lucky thing. And all this while, did you like have a mentor guiding you through it? Maybe a friend, or maybe you went someone, maybe your professor or someone, and how
Yeah, of
invaluable
course.
was it?
Yeah, of course, of course. I had to do it because, I mean, as I said, I knew that I have to crack it, and there was no other option. So when I was unsuccessful, not that I was staying in home and hoping for the God will do some miracle for me. So yeah, definitely. I was actually, every time I applied, I talked to people who, I mean, whoever I felt that either like basically I was trying to tap all the previous Commonwealth scholars, because they have some ideas about how to crack that particular thing. I mean, sometimes it's difficult because as I said, they are changing the rules and regulations every time, so they might not be always aware of how to guide you, but it's helpful. And as I said, because these ACs are very very important, it's important, to like, it's not just about how, like, when you write these essays, it has to be, the story has to be very well versed. So you don't need to be too informative, or like it should not read like a CV, like like I have done this, I've done that. It's not about that. You need to be choosy about what you want to talk about, and create a nice story out of it. So for that, I believe you should, like, the moment the draft is ready, like any student who is wanting to crack that, they need to share it and discuss with a lot of people from different backgrounds. Because also what happens that the screening panel, they are mostly not from their field. So you cannot use technical terms, you cannot use very technical concepts and stuff. If you are using it, you need to elaborate it, you need to make it simpler for others so that the larger audience can understand. And that's why the more you communicate with people, the more you get feedback, the more you become, I would say, would be able to improve your application. And I had actually, so luckily I had two friends, one is a senior and one is a very dear friend. They actually helped me to sort of, and then like, help me to, I would say, revise this application again and again. So yeah, having someone, in that process, at least two or three of your friends who are honest, is very helpful. That really helps.
Yeah, yeah. So not just on that perspective, also you are going through so much, like you're just overwhelmed, like whether I'll get
Yeah,
this scholarship, whether it's going to happen. I'm putting so much of time and energy into it. You always need that mental support too.
yeah, of course, anytime.
Yeah,
Because every time you fail, you start doubting yourself. Even if you are a very self-motivated person, but you would start doubting yourself. So, if you get someone who is kind of pushing you and saying that, okay, no, I mean, you deserve it. You try again. So that kind of support is there. The mental support is, of course,
yeah.
very
it,
important.
it I think at one point it becomes exhausting.
Of course, of course, this is
Yeah,
very exhausting. No wonder.
absolutely. I mean, like what you did is like quite remarkable, but I don't know how you did it. Seriously.
I also don't know.
But I'm pretty sure when you actually think about it, like if you have to think like, okay, back then I did this many things, you must be really proud. Like very
Of
few
course.
people can achieve so many things. Like, and like you did it. You had set an example.
I mean, yeah, I mean, of course, like when the struggle is so much and you get something in the end, what you really wanted to have it, that feeling is like, I mean, yeah, it's something else, like,
Okay, okay, but like, did you like, the minute you got your scholarship, did you like, give out sweets like the way we Indians do, like, okay, the next door people should know about it, so we give out the sweets and everything.
I don't know. I mean, I was not. I mean, I was checking and checking that mail again and again. Oh, I seriously got it. I got it. I got it. My, my parents who was not, even like they were also surprised. They were like, "Oh, finally you have got it." So yeah. But I mean, honestly, but there were a few friends in my, like, where I was working that time, National Institute of Urban Affairs. I mean, I don't know. Somehow they were more confident than me, and when I told them, they were like, "Yes, we knew you would get it." That feels special, and as you said, like that support kind of motivates you even in that dark phase. So it's important, yeah, to have people around you who believe in you.
Yeah, it's like having the right set of people around you. That's
Yes.
absolutely important. Yeah. Okay. So other than the monetary help, monetary funding by Commonwealth, what else has they given you, like the benefits of it or the perks of it?
Yeah. So, interestingly, Commonwealth has another thing. So, to for the Commonwealth scholars, especially who are studying in London, there is another student accommodation called Good Enough College, which is they provide. It's like a hostel, but then it's not like a usual like college hostel. Like there is a specific selection process also. So they invite people from like they invite students, mostly the postgraduate students studying in different colleges in London. and they screen, they do like basically the application, the full selection process is based on what else you do besides your study. So if you are a painter, if you are a sculptor, if you are a musician, so you are in a most advantageous position to get into that accommodation. And Commonwealth Scholarship has a collaboration with Good Enough College. I mean, at least when I applied, it had, and I'm sure they are still continuing it. So what happens that if you have got that scholarship and if you apply there and if you are selected, then you also get a rent scholarship, which means like per month there will be some amount which will be reduced from the usual rent amount you are supposed to give there. And I'm telling you, like all to all the students, Good Enough is one of the best student accommodation you can ever imagine in London. So it has its amazing campus, small campus, but amazing, and it has like wonderful food. Also not like the usual university sort of accommodation. So I got that. So I also got that scholarship. So in a way, that's an added advantage. The other thing is like Commonwealth Scholarship Commission keeps hosting these different types of sessions, like academic sessions, sometimes training sessions, in mostly in London because their head office is in London. But then, like if you're studying in Edinburgh or other cities, also they actually, if you want to do those, attend those sessions, they will give you some kind of assistantship in terms of like they will pay the at least the travel or sometimes accommodation. So those things are already there. They have a very strong alumni network where you can ask for any kind of help from the alumni people. You will be, the moment you get the scholarship, you will be part of that huge WhatsApp group or Facebook group, LinkedIn group. You'll get like immediately you will get a lot of information, and you can reach out to anyone. And the last but not the least, so the thing is somehow the royal family members in the UK, the king, the queen, they're very much interested about how the Commonwealth scholars are progressing. And on every Commonwealth Day, they host an event, a specific event to a few selected Commonwealth scholars who get a chance to visit the Buckingham Palace, and we'll be meeting some of the royal members, sometimes a dinner also. And you could get some moments at least to share with them like what you have been doing and not. And fortunately, I was one of them, so I have experienced it. So that's again something I would say. If you are a Commonwealth scholar, you also have a chance to visit the king and queen over there, so and talk to them personally. So that's an amazing experience. I mean, the journey, like in that way, if you imagine like from wherever all these applicants are coming, it's a great achievement, and it's a moment of proud, of course, right? So yeah, I mean, in a way, as I said, it's the best. I feel there is no other competition.
Yeah, I mean, like a proud moment for sure. But then meeting the king and the queen is, yeah, I don't know, I will not even imagine that. And you
Yeah,
actually
when
it
I
happened to
was,
you.
yeah, when I also got the invitation, I was also not being able to even picture it, like
Process
how.
it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what is it like exactly, like so yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. Was that a real thing or was it just, some
Right.
glitch to my email
Exactly.
that it just came and it just go? Yeah.
So true.
Um, yeah. So I think you also have mentioned me before that you have an online academy that you're
Yeah.
starting up. Like, could you
Yeah.
talk about that and what inspired you to do that?
Yeah. So yeah, so we started. So basically, me and few of my friends, we have started this particular online academy during the pandemic, and that was the time I was also in the UK doing my this masters. And of course, from that time, like like we saw that basically while I was in UCL, because I was in a very strategic moment. So the first half of my education was physical, where I was able to attend the classes and stuff. And then the second half was completely online because suddenly this whole COVID thing happened. The whole university was closed, the campus was closed and stuff. So I saw like how people are getting comfortable with that thing, that new mode of education. And then I have been always, as I said, like passionate about my field, which is urban design. And when I did my masters in urban design, honestly, I got a lot of I would say like people were not actually supporting my choice. They were really you know scared that you might not get enough opportunity, and in India it's very dicey and stuff like that. So it was very discouraging. But then I was kind of was confident about that particular dream, whereas I feel not everyone had have that kind of confidence. They get influenced by people's opinion. And what I like, me and my friends, what we wanted to do, that when you are thinking of such choice, especially related to urban design, urban planning, and doing a master's from abroad and all. So we want the students, those bachelor students, to be more confident about what they can get in Britain if they really do this course. So, and what are the benefits of it? What are the challenges of it? From which universities you should do it, and in what region you should do it. Every region has its positives and negatives. So, right, and because like we have people from different parts of the world, they are all our friends. Like someone studied in Harvard, someone studied in MIT, someone from UCL, someone from SPA. So it's a very sort of I would say, like, we have representatives from every part of the world. And in that way I feel when they do these small courses, and we get these people from different parts, like you are doing, like through Nebula, like using this particular online medium to have people from different parts, and like whoever is interested specific to that particular field, they would be really benefited with that sort of knowledge, not just hypothetically or theoretically, but they see people who are doing things and who have that experience, and they will share their personal experience, and that helps the students to be more confident about what they're gonna do, right? So that was the whole point of having that, and we are still running it. But again, we are specific to our field, and that's how we would like to go ahead.
That is absolutely fantastic, Debayan. I think it's a good start. I would say
Thank
that.
you.
All right. All right, then, attendees, I think I have covered most of your queries. But however, let's check out our chat box and let's see what we have. All right. Priyanka, this session has been proved to be extremely insightful. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you so much. And the first question, mhm, what are the expenses that are covered under the scholarship, Divine?
Yeah, so as I said, first is your visa and ticket fare, everything is covered. Your medical insurance is covered. Your tuition fee is covered. You get a monthly allowance from Commonwealth. So the tricky part is that monthly allowance sometimes varies. So they have a standard rate based on, like, if you are staying in London, you will get a higher rate versus if you are outside London. Now the thing is that, like, sometimes it's tricky because, like, cities like Edinburgh or sometimes Manchester, they are also now have become as expensive as London, but then like they a little bit struggle because they are outside London. So that's a tricky part, but I'm sure they will revise it very soon. The other thing you also get, as I said, like scholarship like this, if you are in London, so the collaboration with Good Enough also gives you that opportunity of getting some reduction, even in the rent scholarship, the amount you are paying for rent. Also, if your course has any field trip in between, so you also get some support from Commonwealth. Not the full thing would be covered, but at least the travel and the visa cost, if I'm not wrong, that will be fully covered. For dissertation also you get an extra amount for printing, binding and stuff like that. You get a warm clothes allowance also. If you are married and if your spouse is dependent on you, I think you also get some very little portion of amount as a support to that spouse, if your spouse is going to stay with you. um, And yeah, I mean, also, like, what happened that during my stay in the UK, because of this whole COVID thing happened, so lot of people were not able to finish their dissertation on time, and which was a genuine cause because people were going through a lot of stress. And that time also Commonwealth extended their support for 3-4 months. So instead of 12 months, they were supporting for you like for 15 months. So what I'm saying that of course you won't get that now, but the point is, like, if like when you are a common scholar, they take care of you, like, as a it's like a community. So there is a lot of security. So if you are in some kind of financial crisis over there for some genuine reason, they would even support you beyond what has been promised in the contract later. So that's an amazing part. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that hope this information helps. It's a long list.
Yeah, it is. Okay, related to the spouse question, also have a question. Can I get my spouse along with me to the UK after attaining the Commonwealth Scholarship?
Pardon, please, just repeat the question once.
So, if someone is married and they had got the scholarship, can they get their spouse along with them while
Yeah,
studying?
they can, of course they can. But again, like as I said, like, I'm not completely. I remember I saw something, but whether it was for PhD only or masters, I need to check it again. But I'm pretty sure they give a amount of, like, for that time it was something around 200 or 300 pounds they were giving monthly, which won't be sufficient. But if you club the amount, like what you are getting as a monthly amount plus your spouse allowance, so it's I think it should be fine.
Yeah,
It's okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I think with the last question that I discussed with you, I think someone has asked, did you get any support from your university to start your academy?
Um, Not necessarily, because I mean, first of all, the universities are generally, they are helpful in terms of sharing information. But as I said, like, the applicants, like, there are too many applicants, honestly, in UK especially, because the tricky part with UK education, like, I mean, the major difference between US and UK education is that UK universities, for most of the courses, they don't have limitation to students. They just invite them, like, you can keep applying and you can get your acceptance based on your profile or whatever, but they don't limit it. So most of the courses, so that's why, like, there are so many queries they're already getting. So it's very difficult for them also to be engaged unless you kind of provide the money and you are already registered with it. The moment you are registered, then you get enough amount of support from all the faculties. But what also happens, so I also want to mention this to all the, as like, people who
Attendees,
are
yeah,
planning to, yeah, kind of
yeah.
apply next year. There is a tricky thing with the timeline here, for Commonwealth. So what happens that, if you check the timeline for this particular Commonwealth scholarship deadline, it generally happens in between October and November. Now, as I said, like, for Commonwealth General Master Scholarship, you have to apply both through CSC website as well as MHRD website. So for CSC, there is no requirement of you providing an offer letter while you are applying for the scholarship. But for the nomination, MHRD has made it mandatory that you have to have a offer letter prior to the application. If you don't have it, you cannot apply to MHRD's website. So which means even if you are eligible for CSC website, but then because MHRD won't be allowing you or won't be nominating you because you don't have the offer letter. So there is no meaning of applying through CSC unless you have a offer letter. So which means if you are applying in October/November, then you have to get your offer letter before that. So that is generally tricky because the UK application period that starts by October mid or November first week. So what happens that if you just imagine if you are applying on the day it opens the portal, so which might be the mid of October, but then by rules they generally take at least 4 to 5 weeks, which means 1.5 months, 1 to 1.5 months for them to decide whether you are getting the chance or not, right? So by that means if it starts from October mid, it's already becoming November end. So you might actually miss out the deadline for the MHRD scholarship by that time. So what you need to do is first, whenever you are planning to, if you are planning to apply this year, you need to contact your department first. You need to tell them that, I am going to apply for Commonwealth Scholarship this year and my deadline is something around October, May or whatever, November. So the moment the portal opens, they need to fast track your application, and it happened with me. That's why now I'm going back the support from the faculty. So what happened with me, that because I informed them prior to this particular application, they actually fast tracked my application, and within 2 weeks I got my offer letter, which won't be the usual case, and it again won't be possible for all the departments. So before choosing the course, you need to talk to them first, that whether this particular fast tracking option is available or not. If not, either you have to change your department, or you have to get the offer this year and then you can only apply for the Commonwealth Scholarship next year with a deferred offer. So this is a very tricky thing now happening. So it's again, it's a you need to kind of take care of it while you are planning your full application.
Or we can just have a one-on-one session with you, like you have so much of idea about it, because this subject between the two different scholarship, it is difficult to process all at once, and
Yeah,
like it's
true.
very broad. The subject
Yeah,
matter is
yeah,
very broad,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay, so someone has also asked, when is the last date of admission for Commonwealth Scholarship?
No, as I said, there will be, the deadline is generally around like either October end or November end. And as I said, there are two different scholarships. So for Commonwealth Master Scholarship, it would have the deadline would be different from the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. So as far I remember, the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship now for this year, I think November end or December end, I think is the deadline. So it varies every year, but generally they will start sharing the information around September every year. So you have to check the website of Commonwealth Scholarship Commission's website, as well as the MHRD website, as I said. So you will be able to understand that. But yeah, tentatively October to December. That's your time frame for both these scholarships.
Right. Also, which documents are required for the Commonwealth Scholarship? I think that means like the transcripts, the passport, and all of those.
Yeah,
Can you
just
like,
Yeah. So one would be, of course, the passport would be required. The other thing is, as I said, like for MHRD, the offer letter would be required, but otherwise it's not required. Like your education related documents, like the transcripts and stuff, that is, uh, they will only ask for it once you get the scholarship. Otherwise, those documents are mostly for your university application, which is separate thing from the Commonwealth application. And they will ask. There is a requirement of 3 recommendation letters you would be needing in the process. Again, it's an online thing. Once you get the scholarship, you will be required to provide the hard copies also to MHRD. So that's again, like so talk to people, or kind of have such referees who would be willing to help with that. Otherwise, after getting the scholarship, you might be struggling with getting that. So that would be tricky.
yeah. I think we are done. I think this is the last question that we have. Like, was there an interview for the Commonwealth Scholarship, and like what kind of questions were asked?
Yeah. So when I started applying for Commonwealth, like for the first 2 years, there was a interview in the whole process. It used to happen in Delhi always in the MHRD office, but then in the new process they have completely scrapped it. So there is no interview. It's only based on your essay and your merit. or achievements or stuff like that. So it's basically based on your written material. So that's why I said in the beginning, it's very important to be aware of what are the different questions they're asking every time, and prepare those answers properly, because you don't have any chance to talk about anything. Like those are the those essays are going to say all the things you want to say to them, right? So it's very very crucial, and you have to prepare for it, like in advance, I would say.
Right, right. Okay, then, all the attendees and aspirants, thank you so much for joining us. We have come to the end of the session, and thank you, Debayan. Lastly, would you like to say something for our aspirants, a special message to them? You can.
I mean, it might sound cliche, but as you can see, like for these kind of scholarships, like because they're very competitive, and it's not always like if you fail, don't think that, don't lose your hope. Don't think that you are not capable enough. It's a completely different game. Like there are a lot of factors involved in this whole process. So if you think that you can do it, that's enough. But then you need to have that patience, like and honestly, uh, don't think that if I'm not getting this scholarship, okay, my 1 year is gone. And if you should think about, like the whole the whole life you have, in that whole, like 30, 40, 50 years of experience, what you would have in the, like at the end of the day, within that, that 1 year of masters, it's nothing. So if it's not happening now, you can still wait for it a bit, and prepare for it better. And there is always a room for improvement. And I have, as you can see, like I won't say I'm the ideal example, but in that way, like from my story at least, you should be confident enough that if you wait for that, and if you constantly improve yourself, and if you believe in that, you would get it. That's I really believe. And all the, like whenever you are planning for such, it's not just about a scholarship, but anything bigger than you, or whatever, like a kind of a dream which you really want to crack. That faith has to be there. It will go up and down, but you need to stick to that, and you need to keep working on it. So that would be, my advice. Be patient, and be critical about, like if you fail, don't don't just ignore that part. Like critically think, why did I fail? I believe I can do it, so what are those reasons, and work on that next time. Otherwise the result will start repeating, and then you will be exhausted, you will lose all hope. But it's important to learn from that mistake, and again, improve on it further, and keep going. So yeah, I mean, all the best.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Debayan. I mean, like, this was really informative and everything was
Thank
so
you.
elaborately, and yeah, I mean, all the aspirants will gain so much of knowledge with this. And I think all the aspirants, thank you so much for being with us today. And please go ahead and check out our quest. If your answer is not been answered during this session, it will be. And also, if you have any queries related to study in UK, IELTS, do reach out to us and our experts, and we will be helping you out. All right, then. Thank you so much, Divine. Take care. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Take care.